Take a breath. Explain to me what happened.
And I looked out, and there was this big, red, blinking UFO.
I can just say this. Something's going on in the woods. Something's going on. They're not dogs. They're not coyotes. What could it be, right?
I had an encounter with a skunk ape, and it completely altered the course of my life.
I found a skull. Are you guys going to want to come film this?
Put him out.
I just see it.
Sightings of a UFO hovering over a barn.
Millie woke up from a dream, and when I went into the bedroom, she said there's a monster on the wall.
They saw that the creature had run through a barbed wire fence. They were able to obtain hairs. They sent the hairs to their lab, and it came back as an unknown creature.
Bizarre Encounters with Shayn Orin.
What is up, Bizarrites, and welcome back to the most bizarre show on the internet. I am the one that they refer to sometimes as Shane Squatch.
What the hell is even that? What is that fucking thing?
It's kind of like when you mix a Sasquatch with a Shane. Figure that one out for yourselves, guys. I don't know what else to tell you. And alongside me, I have the infamous, the big, bad Boo Daddy himself, Sir Orin Felix.
Who's your daddy? Boo.
Yes, Daddy.
Got to get a little bit sexual with it for you again there, buddy.
I'm glad. I've been missing like the sexual innuendo, bringing it home there at the end. So I'm glad you're back on your game.
You didn't like all the dick stuff? I got to throw some dick stuff in with the moaning. Maybe that'll work. I'll blend the two together. Make it a little gay, make it a little straight. Nobody will know which way to go.
Okay, well, I'm eagerly anticipating that.
And speaking of stuff that, we like to make fun of, we do have this awesome comment on YouTube before we get into all the news and updates that I figured that we should laugh about for a minute.
Not a 1-star review, but I think it's pretty close. I think it counts.
It's just as close. I mean, so for anybody that may have listened to our Kecksburg episode, obviously we got a little off the rails there, throwing in theories as far as, it possibly being some type of alien shit or, drone, like shit drone, like excrement from a UFO, whatever you want to say. And apparently there was somebody that didn't find that too funny. So this person has, no name or anything like that, so I can't shut them out by name, but they left this awesome comment on the episode on Spotify that says, "Absolute garbage." They spelled absolute wrong. I want to make sure I included the D. "Absolute garbage. Don't waste your time listening to this crap. P.S. You're not humorous. Not one bit." And the even better part was they thumbs down their own comment.
I just feel really sorry for this guy because that was a relatively hinged episode. Like, if he thinks that was bad, we can get way worse.
But I mean, on the flip side, if you want some serious stuff, I mean, that was kind of a toss-up episode. I feel like that's a weird spot to start off with us in. So I really hope that wasn't like the first one. Because if you hear that episode and you don't know who we are and what we're about, like, I'm sure that is just like a off-the-wall fucking episode to listen to.
Hey, I stand by my statement. There's way more off-the-wall shit we've done. That one was relatively hinged. So to that listener who thumbs down his own comment, thank you for the engagement with the show. We appreciate it.
We love the shit talking because we like to shit talk you too. And anywho, getting into the more important pressing news and updates. For anybody that's caught it on the last couple episodes, I just want to make sure I reference it right out of the gate. We're going to be trying to put together a Halloween episode, a Halloween special episode. And there's two ways we can run that. First and foremost, we could probably have you guys call in during the episode if you guys would like to share your experiences. But that's more the backup plan. The main intention is if you guys are interested in possibly being included in the show, if you guys don't mind calling into the Bizarre Reality Media Hotline and leaving your paranormal, cryptid, UFO experience, encounter, whatever it is, then we will, of course, use it as part of our Halloween special and talk about you and your experience on the show a bit. That also being said, I will verify with you just to make sure it's okay before we use it. I'm not just going to go rogue and use it. And also, as an extension to that, if anybody would like to remain anonymous, you can obviously remain anonymous completely, and even to the point where if you want to, I can change your voice. So if anybody's hesitating to call in because they want to remain anonymous, I can totally do that for you guys. And again, I will check with you guys before they get used on the show. So please call in. Please leave your experiences. Let's put this Halloween special together. And that number is 313-364-1551. And if you guys happen to miss that, it is available down in the show notes. And the next...
Can you do like scary robot voices like on Unsolved Mysteries and shit like that?
Oh, dude, I got this this different thing that I can change voices with on the computer. There's like a couple hundred of them that I can choose from. So I can make them sound like Alex Jones. I can make them sound like a robot. I can make them sound like an alien, a ghost. I can do whatever. So depending on the experience, I mean... I guess the sky's the limit as far as that one goes. And I'll even give you guys the special option to pick what voice you want me to change you to. So if you want to be ranting Alex Jones for your paranormal experience, I can do that for you guys.
I vote for scary robot voice.
What about scary robot Alex Jones?
That just might be too much.
What is that fucking thing?
It's scary robot Alex Jones. Cyborg Alex. And also, just another somewhat pressing piece of news and updates. And this will be the last time I mention it because I mentioned it a couple episodes ago, but I want to make sure I mention on this one because our last episode was Bizarre Inquiries. For anybody that's been going back and listening to the old episodes and noticing that there's a lot of ads on them, I am in the process of fixing that. What had happened was when I switched over the RSS host, they moved over their ads with the current one that I'm using that also has ads. So basically what you're getting right now is double ads, except one of the set of ads is embedded into the episode. So I'm going to have to slowly go through and replace the audio to all of these episodes. So for anybody that's been listening for a while, please bear with me and I appreciate it. And on the flip side, if there's an episode that's really pressing that you want to listen to, the Patreon does have a 7-day free trial and all of those are completely ad free. So, I mean, take advantage of the 7-day free trial, man. If there's a particular one you want to listen to ad free, just go and check that out and see what else is over on the Patreon and in the process.
All right, guys, and our next episode of Bizarre Inquiries, which is our YouTube live show, is going to be Thursday, October the 2nd. It's going to be roughly 7:15 Eastern time, and that's going to be on the Bizarre Reality. I'm still getting used to that.
I would say I'm slowly getting used to it too. YouTube and Twitch. Maybe Rumble at some point.
YouTube and Twitch, which we still don't quite know what Twitch is. But if anyone is interested in being a guest on the show or getting up with us for any reason whatsoever, Shane, tell them how they can do that.
First and foremost, you guys can email us at bizarreencounters@outlook.com. Or like I had mentioned with the call-ins, you guys can always call or text the Bizarre Reality Media hotline 24/7, whatever you guys want to do. And that number again is 313-364-1551.
And if you guys would like to support the show, there are several ways you can do that. First off, you can follow the show on Instagram or Facebook.
You guys can always go and check out the Patreon, like I previously mentioned, with 2 tiers available, ad-free / early access and full access, which includes video versions of episodes and 0.5 bonus episodes of Inquiries of Our Reality.
You can check out the Bizarre Reality merch store with t-shirts starting at just the oddly specific price of $15.68 plus shipping.
Bullshit!
No, seriously, they're $15.68 plus shipping, I promise you. And you guys can also leave a review or rating for the show on iTunes, Spotify, any podcatcher you happen to use. And as soon as we find it, we'll read on the show and give you guys a big shout out. And just as we did a little bit earlier, if you guys want to leave some positive or some shitty comments on Spotify, we'll still read those ones on the show. But again, expect that if you leave something that's a little bit more derogatory, you might make fun of you a little bit. But hey, that's part of the fun, right?
And you guys also be sure to like, share, and subscribe and do all the internet things. Y'all know how the internet works.
And don't forget to go and catch all of our fantastic shows live over there on the Bizarre Reality Media YouTube and Twitch channels.
And as always, all the shit we've mentioned is in the link tree in the show description.
And now hopping into today's episode, this is one that Orin has put together, and this is something that I actually haven't heard of previous to this, so hopefully we'll have something new and refreshing for you guys. But without further ado, I'll let Orin get into this one.
Yeah, so this is kind of a more obscure topic / cryptid. It came up a couple times here in the past few months in some books I was reading, so I thought it would be cool to do an episode on it. And it is the Altamaha-ha River Monster, which is a mouthful. So we're going to try to get through that together.
Yeah, like that guy said, what the heck?
All right, Shane, unless you got anything else, I'm going to go ahead and jump in.
Please teach me about this river monster, my friend.
Okay, so the Altamaha-ha, which is also known as Alti, which is what I'm going to refer to it as from here on out.
But you're missing the fun part. You got to cackle in the middle. The ha 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 ha. You just got to extend the middle.
I'll leave that to you. You can handle the cackling. How about that?
Gladly. I'll get the button back. Remember the cackle button? I'll bring it back. I have quick access to that if I need to.
Designated cackler over there. Anyway, so Alti is a river monster that is said to inhabit the Altamaha River, which is located in southeastern Georgia.
And also a tongueful. A mouthful? Tongueful? Whatever way that works. Mouthful. It's a mouthful.
It's a mouthful. Not as quite as much as the Altamaha-ha, but still a mouthful. But
You
anyway,
sure about that?
I am. So the river has more than 130 miles of coastline, and it is regarded as one of the largest river swamp systems on the East Coast. And due to its like harsh terrain and wide variety of plant and animal life, it's sometimes referred to as the Little Amazon, which I thought was kind of interesting. Sightings of the Altamaha-ha or Alti are predominantly reported in and around the small town of Darien, Georgia, which is located in McIntosh County. And according to eyewitness reports, the creature is a large snake-like creature, and it's generally described as being dark in color and either having like small horizontal fins or no fins at all in some cases. And it has a head that resembles a snake or an alligator. And I thought it was kind of interesting. The Creek Native American tribe, which is indigenous to the area, they have legends of a, quote, giant snake which hissed and bellowed when frightened that inhabited like the local creeks and rivers of this area. So, obviously we talk about Native American legends a lot on the show, but I thought it was kind of interesting right off the rip that, going back hundreds of years, there's sightings and reports of these kind of creatures in this area.
And I mean, there's a constant thing within Native American mythos about this whole thing with giant snakes. Like, just in particular, talking about Cherokee, because I got a little bit of background with that stuff. There's the whole idea of the Uktena, which I think we mentioned maybe a couple times on the show, but we haven't done an actual episode on it. But essentially, it's this like giant antlered snake, and it supposedly has this scale in the middle of its forehead that will give you some type of power, whether it's immortality or something like that. It's part of the legend.
Stone?
Yeah, it's essentially like an infinity stone. But supposedly, like, this was the main competitor to the Thunderbird. So like these things were known to fight in Cherokee lore, the Thunderbird and the Uktena. But the point I'm trying to make, continuing on with Native American folklore, it seems that these giant snakes seem to be a reoccurring factor in Native American folklore, which to me at least, I feel like it's one of those things, aside from the river monster aspect, of course, because those I feel like just have a lot of plausibility to them because it's really hard to know what's really going on in the water. But the whole idea of giant snakes isn't that ridiculous. I mean, it seems like it could have been something that maybe could be a remnant of something that was left over from the past, but giant snakes, to me, are just one of the ones that are just, if I had to put money on something being real, like, giant snakes don't seem that far off. And also, just considering the fact that, these things would need relatively bigger food sources, so I would expect that you wouldn't see a bunch of these things in one area.
Yeah, I mean, it's like giant squids or anything like that. I mean, just a real big fucking version of an animal that we know exists just doesn't seem that implausible to me.
And as a plus side to it, too, I mean, if you have stuff like the Uktena legend where, if you remove the scale from its forehead, you're going to get powers, what ends up happening is that if there's these giant snakes, people eventually end up hunting them down thinking that they're going to get some power out of it. But even on the flip side of it, of course, like, these things would assumably be dangerous. So if you had a giant snake around, like, it doesn't seem implausible that they would probably hunt them into extinction and these legends and stories would still carry on.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so jumping back in, we're going to talk about one of the earliest published accounts of Alti, and this occurred in April of 1830. So that's a pretty good ways away at this point. But at this time, the Savannah, Georgian newspaper reported that a man that they named Captain Delano, who was the captain of a schooner ship named the Eagle. But anyway, this captain claimed that he saw a large snake-like creature swimming off the coast of St. Simon's Island, Georgia.
Oh my God, what the fuck is that, bro?
That was his exact response. We had the recording from 1830.
And so this St. Simon's Island is kind of near the mouth of the river, and kind of interesting, it's only about 20 minutes away from Jekyll Island, Georgia, which we talked about in our Bohemian Grove and Jekyll Island episode. So for some other background to this area, you can go check out that episode. But anyway, according to this article, quote, he, meaning Captain Delano, repeated the particulars precisely, describing the animal he saw as being about 70 feet long and its circumference, about that of a sugar hogshead, moving with its head shaped like an alligator's about 8 feet out of the water. And I had to look up what a hogshead was. It's a large wooden cask or barrel used to transport liquid or dry goods.
I'm glad that you said that because I would have assumed that it was like a literal hogshead.
I assumed that too.
Which is probably about the same size in all fairness as like a barrel, like width-wise.
Yeah, so it's a barrel. It was 70 feet long, big around as a barrel.
So just to throw this in too at this point, I don't know if you're going to get into it a little bit farther, but the whole aspect of this possibly being mixed with like the Nessie thing, like it kind of makes you, like it seems like there's a lot of really close things with it. So yeah, I guess I'll just let you get into that one later. But yeah, I've already seen correlations with it. Almost seems like a mix between like Sinkhole Sam and like some of the Nessie stuff.
Yeah, I think you'll have some more to add when we get into like thoughts and theories. So allegedly, this Captain Delano's sighting was corroborated by at least 5 additional eyewitnesses. And after this report appeared in the newspaper, several other residents of this St. Simon's Island also reported weird sightings of their own. And according to some of these sightings, the creature was dark in color, approximately 40 to 50 feet in length. And this is kind of interesting, I thought, had the ability to spew water into the air, so kind of like a dolphin or a whale. And in some of these reports, they also saw a smaller creature alongside the main creature, so presumably like its offspring. And at the time, there was a former sea captain and a resident of St. Simon's Island, and he suggested that the creature could have been a grampus whale, which I'm not really familiar with what that is. But Captain Delano kind of remained adamant that the creature he saw was unlike any whale he had ever seen. And, you know, he was a schooner captain, so you would think he would know a whale from a big giant snake thing.
Just for the sake of it, I'm going to bring it up on screen if you want to see what a grampus whale looks like. I didn't know what these were called, but I've definitely seen those before.
Oh, okay. So they've just got like a big hump on their
it's like the generic looking gray whale that everybody sees, but you don't realize what the name is for anybody that's not seeing the visuals of it. But that was honestly going to be one of my, as soon as you said the blowhole, I was like, I wonder what whales might be possibly close and possibly might be able to work in this region. Because if it has some type of a blowhole, that means that it might be a mammal, which is kind of gets into a weird aspect of thought with this thing.
Can you say blowhole one more time?
Blowhole.
I hope that guy is listening to this episode. He's really going to enjoy the blowhole talk.
Yeah, he's just going,
what the heck? Oh my God!
Oh, wrong one. What the hell is even that? There it is.
What the hell is even that?
That's that guy. He's just pissed off and angry at us. Chill, daddy, chill.
All right, guys, we got to take another break. We'll be right back. And now we're getting back to the bazaar. All right, so for our next encounter, we are going to fast forward to July of 1969. And there's this man named Donnie Manning, and he was night fishing on the Altamaha River when he saw a large snake-like creature, and it latched onto his fishing line. And the creature kind of reared out of the water and jerked on the fishing line and snapped it. And according to Manning, the creature was grayish in color, approximately 10 to 12 feet in length, so smaller than the previous encounter we talked about. And it had a head that resembled an alligator's. And Manning said that it also had a, quote, horizontal tail instead of a fish-like vertical one, and had a spiny kind of bony triangular ridge along the top of its body, and a dorsal fin that was down on its back. The teeth were shining in the light, and they were sharp, pointed teeth. It was gunmetal gray on top and oyster white yellow on bottom. It didn't move side to side like a snake, but up and down in a vertical motion like a porpoise. So that kind of gets back to your thoughts about it maybe being more mammal-like.
Like I said, I'm kind of starting to inch towards whale, even if it's possibly like I don't want to say an undiscovered species, but maybe like a species that was towards the end around this time, which is maybe why we probably haven't had more recent sightings of this thing. But I don't know. That's my best guess so far, is maybe some form of a whale or misidentified whale. Because, I mean, for how long did people think that, what were those things called? The things that people thought were mermaids. Fill me in. What's the word?
I don't know. You're talking about like porpoises or whatever?
Is that, no, it's not porpoises. Is it sea lions they thought were mermaids?
I don't know.
Hold
It was riveting television over here.
Yeah, sorry, everybody. This will clean out in the post. Manatees, there it is.
Okay.
Yep. Just like the mermaid thing. I mean, I feel like it's one of those things that when something's in the water, it's kind of hard to fully identify. And I mean, for how long did people think that mermaids and manatees were the same thing? I mean, I'm not taking away the validity that there might not be some aquatic people, but most of the issues in the past of people thinking they were seeing mermaids were definitely manatees. So maybe the same thing with this.
Well, we'll see if you change your mind as we get into some more of these stories. So it seems like sightings of Alti kind of peaked in the early 80s. And in December of 1980, there were two men named Larry Gwynn and Steve Wilson, and they were fishing on Smith Lake, which is a tributary of the Altamaha River. And they claimed to see a large snake-like creature as well. And they said that it was swimming just below the surface of the lake. And according to Gwynn, the creature was brown in color, approximately 20 to 30 feet long, and, quote, as big around as a man's body. Gwynn also claimed that the creature had flippers like a seal, two brownish humps about 5 feet apart, and that it left behind a wake like that of a speedboat. So Gwynn and Wilson watched this creature for several minutes before it disappeared into the lake. And Gwynn was a former newspaper publisher, so he went to the local newspaper and reported his sighting. And the story was at that point quickly picked up by the national media, and it led to several other eyewitnesses reporting sightings of their own. And one of those sightings was by two men named Barry Prescott and Andy Green. And according to Prescott and Green, about 6 months prior to the Gwynn Wilson sighting, they were driving along Highway 95 near Darien, Georgia, when they saw this large, strange creature lying on the banks of Cathead Creek, which is another tributary of the Altamaha. And they pulled the car to the side of the road to get a better look at this thing. And it was low tide, and this thing was kind of writhing about, apparently stuck on the banks of the creek. And they said that, again, the creature was dark in color with, quote, rough or warty skin, approximately 30 feet long and 3 to 4 feet in circumference. And so after several minutes, this thing was able to free itself from the bank and make it back into the water. And they said, quote, its movement was powerful and undulating, which is a great word, rather than back and forth swimming movement of marine life. So do you have anything to add before I jump into our next account?
Well, I started kind of looking up to see if there's any documented freshwater whales. And apparently there aren't any documented freshwater whales, but that being said, they do sometimes make it into freshwater ways. But there are such thing as river dolphins. And I mean, there are something that at least exists in the Amazon. I don't know if there's any that would be up this far in this area, but I don't know. I guess the closest thing I can relate it to so far would maybe be one of these river dolphins, but this thing seems like it's significantly bigger than what a river dolphin would be. Because I'm assuming at max, what a river dolphin probably reaches maybe 10 feet, just an assumption.
Yeah, and people were saying that this thing was, anywhere from 70 feet and below. So, I mean, that's a pretty big creature. I mean, that's 7 basketball hoops tall, Yeah,
they're saying that these things only reach about 5 to 9 feet. So there's a certain point of exaggeration you can kind of hit, but I don't think that anybody's taking 5 to 9 feet to that. That's a bit excessive. So,
well, and the other thing about these kind of fisherman accounts, I think, is when you're seeing this thing in the water and you're in your boat, how big your boat is. If you've got a 16-foot skiff or whatever, you can easily gauge if this thing is bigger or smaller than that. So yeah, we talk about size depictions being really out of whack in a lot of these stories, but I almost put a little bit more stock in these fisherman stories because they have a very accurate gauge that they're sitting in of how big this thing is.
And I mean, just to even extend on that, we're always talking about this idea with hunters when they're in the woods and they have a Sasquatch experience, that they're familiar with what's there. So same with these people that are doing this stuff, the captains. It's not just some generic people coming up and just fishing for the day and having fun. These are people that are spending time in these waterways and they're familiar with what's in these waterways. So if they're seeing something different, they're going to point it out, and they're not, because assumably if you're a captain, just like anybody, you're going to try to rationalize it as much as you can, as quick as possible. So if it was anything that's within rational reason, they're going to say, oh, it's this, oh, it's that, oh, it's this, just like a hunter would with any animal or sound they hear in the woods. So when you have these captains, these fishermen that are hardcore spending all this time on the water, like I said, it's the same kind of comparison. They know that they're seeing something that's not supposed to be there. or that they're not familiar with in the area.
Yeah. All right. So our next encounter was by a man named Harvey Blackman. And he was fishing from a dock at the Two-Way Fish Camp, which is located on the river. And he saw a, quote, grayish brown monstrous something about 15 to 20 feet long and as big around as a man.
I like that the sizes stay exactly the same for the width.
Yeah, I've got
but
that
the
later
lengths
on in
change.
like my conclusions. Like the description of this thing is exactly the same. Yeah, you've got like a little bit of variance with like the size, but again, that could be, you know, different parents and siblings, or it could be down to, you know, just like mistaken size comparisons while you're in the water. But yeah, the description of this thing is remarkably consistent.
Yeah, that was exactly what I was going to say. You already made the reference to the fact that it looked like it had like a juvenile in one of the first encounters next to it. So clearly there might be a breeding population of these things. And also just, you know, depending on the clarity of the water, things getting misconstrued because everybody knows that, you know, you put a pencil in water and it'll turn and shift the other direction. So kind of hard to fully tell. But again, you're going back to these fishermen, you know, they're aware of this. They know how to gauge these things because this is what they do for a living. So like, I feel like these judgments, at least from the fishermen for lengths, are probably pretty semi-accurate, you know, probably within a couple feet.
Yeah, more so than a lot of stuff we talk about on the show, I think. But anyway, so as these men's boat approached the creature, it slithered into the water and swam underneath the boat. And according to one of the witnesses, the creature had 2 or 3 humps on its body, but no fins or other appendages. So
it's a water camel.
That's kind of one of the things that changes in the accounts is whether it had these little fins or not. But like we said, other than that, they're all pretty much exactly the same story.
I mean, even like the humps and stuff like that too. I mean, that's just like, I feel like a really like weird detail to always point out this like 2 humps thing. Like,
yeah,
it's not,
which again kind of gets back to Nessie type ideas.
Yeah, and then even goes into the aspect of like maybe we're not necessarily dealing with like an animal that maybe might be deformed, because of course when you have these one-off things, you always have to take into consideration that defects happen in the animal kingdom just as they do in the human kingdom. But if you're seeing all these different varieties of sizes, but they still carry all these similar characteristics, then you kind of have to knock out the possibility that it might just be a deformed animal.
Yeah, for sure.
But I will say, just to throw this in, this was 1830. I don't know what the industry and all that kind of stuff was like as far as the water goes, but obviously around this time,
well, we're
factories
in like the 1980s at this point. Our first one was from the 1830s, but we're like in pretty much present day now.
But so I guess still kind of going into that, with a lot of these factories and stuff, you never know what they might be pumping into the water. So, I mean, talking about the deformities thing, you know, it could be that, you know, a deformity started because of what was getting dumped in the water. Like even going back to the 1830s, I don't know exactly when the industry may have started in that area or if it even started in that area, but, you know, it could have started with somebody dumping this into the water and then it started causing this deformation, and then they just started breeding in this deformation into whatever these things are.
Whatever they are.
Whatever they are.
Oh my god, what the fuck is that, bro?
What he said. We apologize, guys, for the interference, but we will be right back. And now back to the show.
All right. So this I thought was kind of an interesting story. The owner of the Two-Way Fish Camp, which we talked about in the previous encounter, he was a man named Frank Culpepper, and he had a strange sighting of his own.
I wish I could go back to the 1800s and have one of these names. Do they
like Frank Culpepper?
Yeah, Culpepper. That's just a hard-working American name. It sounds like, you know, like
you could own a fish camp and be named Frank Culpepper.
And that fish camp goes 2 ways. It goes both ways.
So
what happens at fish camp stays at fish camp.
Maybe so.
Fish camp after dark? Maybe.
Anyway, Frank Culpepper was fishing upriver of the fish camp, and he saw a large brownish creature that swam into his boat with, quote, significant force. And according to Culpepper, quote, it scared me so badly, I cranked the boat and went back to the camp. It looked like a big snake. And Culpepper also claimed that one day while he was working in one of the buildings at the fish camp, this man rushed in and claimed that him and 2 of his buddies had just seen a big snake-looking creature while they were fishing from one of the docks. And Culpepper went to retrieve his gun, but by the time he made it out to the dock, the creature had disappeared, because of course it had.
I think we're also, just to throw this in, we're past the point of this possibly being a log, because I'm sure there's a lot of people thinking out there that, oh, it may have been a log, but I think we're past that point.
Well, yeah, I mean, everybody kind of reports this thing like swimming and undulating and rearing out of the water. Yeah, it's definitely an actual creature, what they're seeing. Like, what that creature is up to interpretation, but yeah, it's not a log. So.
And just to throw this in too, because you mentioned, there's the lakes and all the rivers and everything. Like, do you know like how big these things are? Like, is it like a pretty damn deep lake? Like, are these pretty wide rivers? Like, do you know like the size of this area? Like, how much room does this thing have to hide in the water? I guess is kind of what I'm trying to get at.
Well, I talk about it a little later, but the river like actually does connect to the ocean. So like theoretically something that's in the ocean could get up into this river system. I think it's a relatively shallow river. Like I said, it's like 130 miles of coastline. And interestingly, like all of this river is located within the confines of the state of Georgia. So I don't think it's like this huge, deep river, but I don't have like an actual depth number that I came across in any of my research.
Well, I mean, it opens up the doors of possibility the second you said that it connects to the ocean, because I mean, at that point, it's like it could literally be anything from the ocean.
Yeah.
Like if it has that connecting factor in, it's not just specifically stuck in this area.
Exactly. No, I was going to save that for thoughts and theories, but we'll go ahead and throw it in now.
Well, I guess not necessarily a thought and theory, but at least from your research, because I'm not looking at these numbers directly on a piece of paper, does it seem like there's like a correlation as far as like it comes, or people see it every certain amount of time, or people see it around like a certain type of season or something like that? Because possibly the reason why it's in this area could be for breeding at specific times, just to kind of throw that theory in. And this may be something that exists in the ocean, but maybe has to come to freshwater to breed, because there are a lot of different aquatic species that are like that. I mean, there's a lot of different shrimp species that, they're freshwater, but they can only breed in saltwater, or vice versa. So maybe this might be something that's kind of like that.
Well, we talked about the Native American legends of creatures like this, and we talked about Captain Delano's report from back in the 1800s. But like I said, it kind of seems like the sightings really spiked in like the early 1980s. So we're going to get into a few more here, but like the decade of the 80s really seems like when a lot of this activity was going on. So that kind of brings up some interesting thoughts as well. Like, okay, so these things were seen hundreds of years ago, but you had this massive spike of sightings in the 80s. What's going on there? Like these things, were they just dormant for 200 years and then pop back up? So I think it's kind of interesting to think about, like, where were these things in that gap, I
mean, even on the flip side of that, though, some of these deep water aquatic animals, I mean, they have pretty long lifespans. So, I mean, that being said, of course, I mean, the reproducing cycle might only be every like 100 years or whatever. Yep. You see that with some tortoises Galapagos tortoises. I mean, those things aren't regularly breeding every single year. It's like every fucking 50, 100 years they start trying to reproduce. So it might be, again, the same with these things, because if we don't even know what we're dealing with in the first place, like who knows what the life extension could be of this thing. Like I'm pretty sure whales, they got a pretty good life cycle. It's probably about, I think, the length of a human. So, I mean, add on something else that we're not familiar with. I mean, who possibly knows how long these things could live for? Especially
if this is, truly some sort of like prehistoric relic creature that, somehow survived this whole time.
Yeah, I guess the average lifespan for most whales is 80 to 90 years. So again, I mean, unidentified species, could that lifespan be every 100, every 200? Yeah. I wouldn't even go 200, maybe 100, 150, and maybe it only reproduces once in its life cycle. And what you're seeing in these gaps might just be things that have to come to freshwater to reproduce. Like that's kind of where I'm leading so far.
It's like the salmon traveling to reproduce or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of aquatic animals that do that. I mean, eels, they only reproduce supposedly in the Bermuda Triangle, and nobody's actually ever seen like the reproductive cycle of an eel. Like there are a lot of animals that go to specific areas at specific times that are aquatic animals to reproduce. So it's not an unheard of and unseen thing.
No, I think that's definitely a good thought, and I'm kind of curious to see where you land when we get through all these sightings. But jumping back in, we're going to talk about a sighting from January of 1983, and this sighting was by a used car salesman named Tim Sanders.
That's a used car salesman name right there.
Yeah, I mean, so he's legit. Like, you can trust what he says.
Pleasure to meet you. Buy this piece of shit. I'm Tim Sanders.
So anyway, Tim Sanders was driving across the Chapney Bridge, which crosses over the Altamaha, when he spotted what he thought to be a porpoise playing near the riverbank about 100 yards away. And when Sanders pulled his car over to the side of the road to get a better look at this thing, he realized that it was, quote, 20 to 25 feet in length and about the size of the torso of a man. So there you go, same description again. Its skin was dark in color, and it had several humps about 6 to 7 feet apart along its back. And Sanders also noted that he thought it had like a snout at the tip of its head. So here we go again. Very similar report and description to our previous ones.
And just to throw this in, because we did talk about the whole river dolphins and their full size, if anybody is curious of the full size of a porpoise, they reach about 5 to 7.5 feet. So again, not something
Much
that you
smaller.
could compare and say, oh, it was this big. I mean,
Yeah.
I got to throw this in here, I guess, because I know that somebody out there is probably screaming this. Fisherman tales. I mean, this turns into this pretty damn quick when it comes to fishermen. So, I mean, they may be good at referencing sizes, but on the other side, once they retell the stories a few times, something this big can easily turn into something this big. So I'm not saying this is the case with this, but you do have to take that into consideration too.
Yeah, I mean, just like we talk about with any of these type of stories, I mean, size description should always be taken with a grain of salt. I mean, we know human beings are notoriously poor at gauging the height or the size of anything, basically. But
the double
anyway,
humps, though, and the barrel size, though, that stays constant, which is absolutely fascinating.
Exactly. So in the summer of 1985, there was a man named Isaac Bacon, and he was fishing with his brother and sister on Dents Creek, which is another tributary of the Altamaha. And as they were fishing, they noticed a large snake-like creature lying partially submerged on the banks of the creek. And according to Bacon, the creature, quote, blew water out of its nostrils, which made bubbles. Then it entered the water and went up creek a ways and started scraping/eating fiddler crabs off the pier there. And I thought this was kind of interesting that he specifically said it blew water out of its nostrils. And I'm wondering if in some of these other encounters where people reported that it had like a blowhole, like a whale or a dolphin, it was really just blowing water out of its nostrils. And, that's just the logical leap that you make is, oh, this thing had a blowhole like a dolphin.
Yeah, I could definitely see that one too. I mean, it depends, I guess, on the exact account and where they claim that it's coming from. Because, I mean, if it's coming from like a fisherman, again, it's like, I'm sure they know what a blowhole is. But on the flip side, if it was just one of the people fishing that made the reference, I mean, obviously you correlate the two together and that's going to be your first assumption.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So anyway, Bacon also stated that the creature was dark in color, approximately 12 to 14 feet in length, and as big around as a man's body. So there we go again. But he also said the creature did not have any gills, fins, or appendages, but he did say that the head resembled that of an alligator. So again, very, very similar story to everything else we've talked about. And I'm just going to knock out another quick sighting before we get into some more modern day encounters with this thing. So in May of 1988, there was a crab fisherman named Ralph DeWitt, and he was checking on his crab pots in the Du Bois Sound when he saw a creature that he described as blackish brown in color, approximately 20 feet in length, and possessing an eel-shaped head. So we've had kind of snake-shaped heads, we've had alligator-shaped heads, now we have somebody describing it as an eel-shaped head. And according to this Mr. DeWitt, the creature, quote, arched up out of the water and then dove back in, following its head like a serpent. And he commented, quote, I've seen manatees, sturgeon, tarpon, turtles, porpoise, and logs, but I have never seen anything like this.
I'm going to throw this in here because if not, I'm going to forget to throw it in. So a while ago on Inquiries, I had somebody on that was talking about this whole concept of giant snakes, specifically being seen in the Amazon. And he was talking about how they seem to use the river systems to be able to move around. And he kind of got into some of the Native American sightings of giant snakes. So just to throw this in as a possibility, maybe this, again, we're talking about it not necessarily being native to this area, but you're talking about the little Amazon, the little rainforest type thing. Is it possible that this could have been something that was from the actual Amazon, and it took river systems and all that kind of stuff and eventually made its way up here and then got landlocked, or not landlocked, but basically got itself stuck up in this region. Because, I mean, there's already some possible evidence to possibly back that up.
Well, and that would kind of make sense on, you know, the long period of time between the initial sighting and then this big wave. If this thing is, you know, going across the fucking continent to get back to the Amazon.
I mean, he was even throwing in like migration pattern ideas where basically he was saying that like they could follow these like water systems and basically do like a loop like up and around. And he even had like a map where he was saying like how all these water systems can basically connect into the Amazon and come all the way up. So, I mean, you know, some of these animals, I mean, their life cycle could literally just be to constantly stay moving. So, you know, if you're something that stays in freshwater and you kind of got to constantly be moving, I mean, it definitely would make sense that maybe it would take that long to eventually kind of loop around this area.
Well, and, you know, we've talked about a lot of things on the show at this point, especially when we did our Living Dinosaurs episode. You know, a jungle or a swamp or something like that is a perfect environment for these kind of relic creatures to be living and like basically live undetected for many, many years. So, again, like you said, the idea of just river lake monsters in general, I think, is one of the more believable quote unquote cryptids. And this one, which is basically just described as a big fucking snake, I mean, seems pretty believable to me that this could be something that actually exists.
And just to throw this in, because we've also been talking about this whole concept of an aquatic animal living 200 years, I found a perfect example. This thing is called the Greenland shark, and its average lifespan is about 200 years. And I'm not saying that this is what we're talking about here in particular, but this is something that could be reasonably close to what we're talking about, that has a 200-year lifespan.
And, I mean, you could kind of see this as having roughly snake-like features.
Especially this. I mean, like, look at that thing. Yeah. And, I mean, that looks like it's pretty good size, at least next to the person. But
I mean, it's way bigger than that person in that picture, so yeah.
My assumption is, just guessing from this picture, probably what, maybe around like 10 feet or so? Let's look it up just for the sake of it. Just so we have the exact numbers
here. It looks like it's
here.
bigger around than a man, though.
Oh, here we go. 8 to 21 feet typically is what they grow. Maybe we may have figured this out, man.
Yeah, so that's kind of right there in line with a lot of the size descriptions of this thing.
Oh, maybe we're onto something here, dude.
You've cracked the code.
Maybe.
Sit tight, guys. We got to pay some bills. And now back to the show. All right. You good?
Yep. And also, just to throw this in, because I did a little bit more research on this thing, it says, no, Greenland sharks do not typically live in freshwater. They are exclusively marine, inhabiting the extremely cold, deep waters of the Arctic and North Atlantic Oceans. They have adapted to saltwater and the high pressure of deep ocean water rather than freshwater environments. But, that being said, obviously somebody would have connected these two, I feel like, at some point if this was something to it. So, could it also be possible that we might be talking about a subspecies of this?
Yeah. No, I think that's a really cool thought. I mean, it's something that we kind of came to organically, or you did anyway. That was not something that I came across in my research, but hey, I think it's, just as valid as any other theory at this point.
Hey man, I just coming from somebody who's really into aquatic stuff. I mean, they say that clownfish specifically have to live in salt water, and they do. If you put them in the wrong types of water, like, you're going to kill these things. But that being said, there have been a few cases of people seeing clownfish in freshwater, and they have actually been surviving. So, I mean, talk about something weird, life finding a way, it may not always work, but there might be some special ones that somehow make it work. And once one makes it work, then they kind of open the floodgates to reproduce in the area and possibly create another subspecies that's able to exist in freshwater. So just to throw that one in there. Freshwater water species are weird. They adapt a lot easier, it seems, than stuff on land, and they adapt a lot quicker to things than stuff on land. But they can also die a lot faster than stuff on land if they are put in the wrong conditions.
Well, and since you're kind of the expert on this, you'll have to correct me, but isn't there something like the attacks that the movie and the book Jaws were based off of was like a shark that like made its way into a river in New Jersey or something like that?
Yep.
So, I mean, how far-fetched is it that, something like this made its way into this river in Georgia?
Yeah, and I mean, it didn't seem like it was aggravated or anything like that, but again, just to throw it in, I mean, sharks are regularly seen in freshwater, even though they're saltwater animals. The question of how long they live in the freshwater is a whole other thing that I'm not 100% sure about, but it happens.
Yeah, so I mean, like we said, with this river being connected to the ocean, it basically, all bets are off at that point. This thing could be anything.
And not to mention, Greenland isn't that far realistically from possibly coming in towards that waterway in the grand scheme of the ocean.
All right, so we're going to jump now to something that happened a little more recently. So in March of 2018, there was a man named Jeff Warren, and he was fishing with his son at the Wolf Island National Wildlife Refuge. So there's a kind of a state park, national park, wildlife refuge connection right off the bat there. But this place is located in Golden Isles, Georgia. And when him and his son were fishing, he saw something strange washed up on the riverbank. And he went to investigate this thing, and he discovered what appeared to be like the carcass of what he described as a Loch Ness type thing. The carcass was approximately 5 feet in length with a, quote, snake-like body, small head, flippers, and tail fins. So this thing, obviously, it's smaller than a lot of the reports that we've talked about. But Warren took several photos of this thing on his cell phone, and he sent them to the Savannah Morning News newspaper. And the newspaper kind of contacted these like multiple local experts, but by the time they arrived on the scene, the carcass was no longer there. Presumably, it like floated out to sea or got eaten or something. But anyway, when Jeff Warren's photos were later released to the public, it, of course, led to widespread speculation that this carcass belonged to a juvenile Altie.
Just out of curiosity, is this the image you're referring to? I wanted to see if I could find it.
Yes,
that
is it right there.
Okay, I just want to make sure and bring it up on the visuals if anybody wants to see it.
Yep. So a lot of experts were still kind of skeptical of this whole account. And there's a naturalist at the University of Georgia named John Crawford, and he stated, quote, I am convinced the sea creature is a constructed model of a baby Altamaha-ha monster. And there's a marine biologist at Jacksonville University named Quentin White, and he said, quote, that could easily be faked. I think someone's playing a joke on us. But on the other side of the coin, Dan Ash, who is the director of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, suggested that it could have been some sort of deep sea shark, there you go, that had decomposed, quote, in a way where it looks like it has a long neck and tiny head resembling a prehistoric creature. So that kind of gets back to your, what was the shark species that we were just talking about?
The Greenland shark.
The Greenland shark. So I think that would probably count as a deep sea shark, don't you?
Oh, that's specifically where it says that it's a deep sea shark. And just to throw this in too, I was looking up where these things typically can be seen, and not only are they seen in Greenland, but they've also been known to be spotted near Canada, and they're also known to come up to shallower water during the colder months. So I don't know. Let's see. We got January for the one, so definitely one of the, quote, colder months. So, I mean, again, maybe we're kind of wrapping around to the possibility of this thing being this type of shark. And talking about this image, of course, talking again from somebody who keeps fish tanks and everything, when a fish dies, it's not like on nature where everything comes in and starts ripping it apart. It's like little piece by piece, fish will nip at it as it's floating through the water. It starts turning into this amorphous goo and things keep picking at it. So it's very easy for things to become misshapen when they die in the water and they start sucking in water and being eaten by other fish. Like it can change the shape of it real damn quick.
So, kind of closing out this section, and this I just kind of had to chuckle a little bit. So there is a New York City-based performance artist known as Zardulu the Mythmaker. And so take all that with, whatever you will. But anyway, this performance artist allegedly claimed responsibility for this creature carcass thing and claimed that it was made out of a stuffed shark and paper mache. Which, I mean, entire shaker of salt here. I mean, the picture doesn't look very paper mache to me, but I don't know. What do you think about that one?
I mean, have you ever tried to put paper mache in water? I mean, I don't think it's going to hold
not.
any type of shape. I think it's just going to turn
I haven't done
into
paper mache since like third grade.
Well, the whole point of how it sticks is that you get it wet. So if it gets wet, this thing's just going to turn into a crumpled mess of goo, and it's not going to have any shape. So the paper, maybe the shark, if you're using the shark carcass to reproduce stuff, but the paper mache aspect, like, you lost me on that one.
Yeah, I think Zardulu's full of shit.
It sounds like another performance artist that's trying to promote himself, because, you know, it's one of those things that no press is bad press. So if he gets his name in the newspaper, then people are looking at his art. So, you know, take the opportunity when you get it, I guess. Just like all the people that came out with the Patterson Gimlin film, like, I was the man in the suit. Like, yeah, except suits in Hollywood weren't that good at the time. So, like, you're fucking crazy. Get out of here.
I made the fucking paper mache shark.
Dude, you start looking into those people too that were like faking that thing, and I guarantee you they're people that were like costume designers and shit like that. They're looking for an opportunity and trying to take advantage of it, just like this artist probably was.
Well, so I mean, on our power ranking of possible shit, I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry.
On the rank of 1 to bullshit, or from 10 to bullshit on whether or not this paper mache thing is true, I give it a bullshit. Straight bullshit.
I'm putting Zardulu down at the power ranking bottom of like possibilities on this thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to say, I mean, I'm not saying that carcass was for sure what this thing is, but I don't think it was some artist created thing. I think if anything, I mean, weird stuff washes up on the shore all the time, and this is probably another case of that. I'm not saying that it was this particular thing, but it was clearly probably some carcass of something. Hold that thought. We'll be right back after this brief commercial break. And we are back to the show. So let's hop right in.
All right, so now we're going to kind of get into thoughts and theories and things of that nature. And a lot of this we've kind of already touched on throughout the episode. But there's been several different known species that have been theorized as like the true identity of this creature. And this includes eels, sturgeon, manatees, porpoises, seals, and this is my favorite one, even a, quote, conglomeration of sea otters. And you know, the idea behind this is that if you've got like a bunch of sea otters fucking swimming together, you would mistake it for a way bigger creature. But this is a Kentucky meat showers levels of stupid as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I feel like it would have been more plausible if they would have said a school of fish than, oh yeah, just two animals simultaneously just swimming together perfectly. That everybody who's
fuckload of sea otters.
They've just seen this multiple times and it's just fucking sea otters. Like, no.
This one's even dumber than Zardulu, the myth maker.
I think that this one almost ranks as dumb as with the grafted monster being an old lady dragging a fridge down the street.
It's right up there. I mean, we need to make like a Mount Rushmore of dumb like explanations for things, and I think it's sea otters, refrigerator, Kentucky meat shower.
I think that we officially need to purposely always have the bullshit meter going, and every time we hit something like this, we just hit a bullshit. It's there infinitely now on the board
deserves
forever.
A bullshit for sure.
Straight bullshit.
So on the not bullshit scale, though, it's also been suggested that this thing could be an alligator gar.
I can see that.
Alligator gars are sometimes referred to as living fossils, and they are known to grow up to 10 feet in length, and they do have like small little fins by their heads. But what's really interesting about these things is they have the ability to breathe in both air and water, which could kind of account for some of the sightings when these things are seen like on the banks of the river and, you know, writhing in the mud and trying to get back into the water and whatnot. And as you can see in these pictures you got pulled up, they're pretty fucking gnarly looking.
Oh yeah. I would say they're kind of cool. I recently started figuring out about a bunch of different species of fish that have this ability. So plecos, same thing. They're one of those types of fish. They can exist outside of water for, I think it's up to like 24 hours. And I guess the reason for this adaptation happening was because certain types of fish, they stay in waters that, you know, the water starts to get shallow and then it comes back up. So it's supposed to be like an evolutionary adaptation to make it so that they can survive in these conditions. So again, going into the whole aspect of this thing being seen on the shore, I mean, it could be one of those animals that have adapted to be able to breathe outside of water because it knows that it'll be in these types of situations.
Well, and the only thing that I think kind of discredits this theory is it says they can grow up to 10 feet in length. And 10 feet's kind of on the lower scale on a lot of the reports. that we've talked about. But I mean, other than that, I think it's, kind of spot on. This thing is like vaguely snake-like. It does have small little fins. So I think this is a really good theory personally.
And I mean, just to extend on that too, we always talk about these pocket areas, especially in weird areas like Little Amazon. I mean, like how weird of an area is that? Could we be dealing with the pocket species of gar, for example, of alligator gar that only exists in this region? Because there's a lot of that in the United States. Like Venus flytraps only existing in one place in the entire fucking world, and it's this weird swamp that's, I believe, not too far from you.
yeah, like 2 hours down the road.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that can only exist in one particular area for whatever reason. And again, Little Amazon, like where else in the entire U.S. is there a place that has a name like that? Like this is clearly a weird ecosystem to begin with.
Yeah, for sure. And, I think if we're going to go the route of, okay, what's the most likely scenario? I think this can probably account for a lot of the sightings. Not all of them, of course, because some of them are just like way too big for it to be this thing. But, I think a lot of the sightings probably could be boiled down to these things.
And just to throw it in too, of course, you have an initial couple sightings. And now that the initial couple sightings exist, they're in the minds of people. So now you got to take into consideration people are going to misidentify known things for this thing because they have the idea of it existing in the area in their head.
Because it's already in the social consciousness at that point.
Exactly. So anytime anybody sees anything weird they're not familiar with, they're instantly going to put that name on it, unfortunately, now.
Well, speaking of things in the social consciousness, another popular theory is that Alti could be some sort of like relic prehistoric creature similar to Loch Ness. And what's interesting about this theory is that many of the original settlers to this area in southeastern Georgia actually came from the Scottish Highlands, which is obviously near Loch Ness. And it's been suggested that a lot of these settlers could have like brought tales of the Loch Ness Monster with them from Scotland, and then over time these kind of got confabulated with sightings of some sort of local creature, whether that be a trefoil river sea monster, whatever, or something more mundane like this alligator gar. But I thought that was kind of interesting that it does have like kind of an actual connection to the Loch Ness Monster, other than hey, it's a sea monster that kind of looks like Nessie.
I think it's always really, really cool when you can watch this folklore travel over, like, all the people coming from like England and stuff that were in like the Virginia area, and they were like black shucks, snarly yow, like
exactly.
It's really cool to see those connections. I mean, some people it might add validity, so for some people it may take it away, but either way, I mean, it's folklore. You're seeing folklore exist and like create itself as it goes. Like it's just a fascinating concept to me.
Yeah, and I think the fact that these people came from the area around Loch Ness that, has this legend about a sea monster. That doesn't necessarily mean that there's not also one in Georgia. Again, two things can be true at the same time.
And I mean, it's one of those things that it's like Sasquatch at this point. Like you see this typical marking of this aquatic creature everywhere. It's not even just in Lake Loch Ness, like Champ, like Pressy, like they all have this basic shape and idea. And it's that plesiosaur kind of idea. And it's just like, which came first, you know what I mean? Because like the whole idea of like, I don't know when the plesiosaur was discovered, but I know that like a lot of the dinosaur stuff was happening late 1800s, early 1900s. That's when they really like discovered, quote, rediscovered, whatever you want to say it, for dinosaurs and stuff. So it kind of brings in a whole other area of fascination that the Loch Ness monster stories existed before then. So it's like, where did they get the idea of the plesiosaur? Like the chicken and the egg type of thing. Like what came first? Was it the dinosaur discovery and they put the name on? Or there's clearly something in the area and then they connected it later to the fact that it looks like a plesiosaur?
Well, and we've had, legends of sea monsters and lake monsters forever. So, I mean, again, chicken and egg situation, is it, all these people are describing dinosaurs they saw, or are these like actual sea monsters that existed later? But yeah, I think it's always interesting to think about these kind of chicken and egg folklore type situations. And like I always say, what could these things mean in like real world terms?
And I mean, even connecting it possibly to some more real world terms, if we are dealing with some type of like pocket species of something that's prehistoric, I mean, could it be the same as like with lions or with bears or whatever, that they all have like, this is their territory that they hunt in? So that's why you're seeing like one big one in each of these giant lakes, is because there can't really be a sustainable system of these things, because once they get to a certain size, they probably shove off and go find somewhere else to live, because there's just not enough in the area for it to sustain a whole population of these things. And a lot of these apex predators like to live in solidarity besides when they're reproducing.
Yeah, I mean, even when one of these things gets to be 5 or 6 feet long, I mean, at that point, it's the biggest thing in the river. So, I mean, it's just not really sustainable for there to be a ton of these things at that point.
Exactly. And like I said, people kind of seeing these things all over the country. I mean, could we be dealing with all of these aquatic monster sightings or all the same species of things? It's just a matter of maybe they have an area and then they all kind of spread out from there to find their own water paths in different areas.
And maybe that's why we see, similar stories all across the globe. And again, they are pretty remarkably consistent.
And I mean, just to throw this in too, I mean, if these things have been around since the prehistoric times, like who knows what their like mental capacity is. Like, I'm not saying that they're like human intelligent or anything like that, but I mean, dolphins, whales, like they're pretty intelligent animals. So we could be dealing with the same thing with this. Like maybe the reason you can't catch it is because it's smart enough to know how to not be caught. Hold on tight, guys. This is our last break, so stay tuned.
And now we're getting back to the bizarre. All right, so we're going to jump into like miscellaneous and conclusions at this point. And a lot of this stuff we've kind of already touched on, but just some kind of local folklore type stuff. Throughout the years, the Altamaha-ha or Alti has become significant to like the folklore of this area in southeastern Georgia, particularly in the town of Darien. And the Darien-McIntosh County Visitor Center has this like large sculpture of the creature. And when you had pictures pulled up earlier, I saw you had a picture of the sculpture pulled up, actually.
I'll bring it back up right now for you.
So this sculpture was created by a paleo artist named Rick Spears.
This guy right here?
Yep, that's it right there.
And for all the audio listeners, I'll make sure that I include this in the cover art because this is probably one of the best representations of this creature. So I'll make sure you guys can see it in the cover art also.
Yeah, it's pretty cool looking. But it was based off of eyewitness descriptions. And this visitor center also has like information and exhibits about the creature. And they also have like a little gift shop that sells souvenirs and, t-shirts and coffee mugs and whatnot depicting the creature, which I thought was kind of fun and interesting. The Altamaha-ha is also featured in a video game, and for once, it is not Fallout 76.
Oh, dang.
It's a 2015 video game called South of Midnight, which, of course, I know nothing about. Maybe some of our people on Twitch that we also know nothing about can tell us about that.
I was going to say, those Twitch people, they might know.
But anyway, we kind of already talked about this, but it's kind of in my wrap-up of thoughts and theories. I think it's interesting to note that, like we said, the descriptions of this thing have remained like remarkably consistent across several decades. I mean, the size, the color, the behavior, the general appearance, all pretty much the same.
I mean, this stays consistent with almost any aquatic animal, or any aquatic cryptid, it seems like, because I feel like 99.9% of the aquatic ones all have the same shape.
Everybody specifically says, it's as big around as a man. Like it's just the language people use is exactly the same in all of these reports. And that's why I included so many of them and so many direct quotes, because I wanted to like build this case of everybody's describing the same thing here,
And I mean, continuing on with that, I mean, does that, I feel like in a weird way, it brings some validity to it, just like the whole Sasquatch thing. That if you're seeing this same aquatic creature in all over the planet, like there has to be something to it. Like it's not just a misidentified animal at this point. If people keep describing this thing the same, whether it's in Lake Loch Ness, it's in Lake Michigan, it's over here in Georgia, like it's always the same with these aquatic creatures.
Yeah, for sure. And, like we kind of talked about, the only real discrepancy in these sightings, of course, there's, some size discrepancy, but that could be chalked up to juveniles versus adults. But the presence of like fins or these other small appendages, that's kind of a point of contention. And the thing about the sculpture that you've got pulled up, it has pretty large fins on the sculpture, which seems, not quite in line with a lot of the reports we've talked about, where if they, mention fins at all, they're much smaller. But hey, this could be just because that's how this guy needed to build this thing to get it to stand on that base there, so there could be some artistic liberties taken.
Speaking of artistic liberties, I just stumbled upon this, and maybe this also might be a connecting piece. I know it's not necessarily from the same area, but there is this other Native American creature, because I looked up water dragons, and this is what the renditions look like, and it seems like it's still relatively close to what we're describing here. So this might be another legend that exists in other places with this aquatic dragon concept, and I know I'm going to butcher the name, but Anua, that's how I'm assuming you'd pronounce it. But this comes from...
Close enough for me.
Yeah, close enough for me. It's from the Tiwa people. So if anybody wants to kind of look into it a little bit. But yeah, aquatic water dragon. And look at it. It looks like a snake serpent looking thing. I mean, there's another tribe that might be seeing the same thing, you know?
On that kind of cave painting looking image, like fourth one over on the top row, like even the like head snout thing kind of is similar to what we've talked about in this episode.
So again, dude, when you see something everywhere, it's like there has to be something to it, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And that's kind of a great segue into the next thing I got in the notes, which we already kind of touched on. You know, a lot of these eyewitnesses were experienced fishermen. They would have known, you know, the local animals and aquatic creatures. They would have had size comparisons with their boats and whatnot. And also, unlike a lot of other lake and river monsters we've talked about on the show, kind of like Normie, the Lake Norman monster, I think a lot of these eyewitness descriptions of the Altamaha-ha, they can't be as easily disregarded as like a misidentified known animal. Like with Normie, you could pretty easily say, hey, that was probably just a big catfish. And, you know, a lot of the descriptions of Normie were kind of all over the place. They weren't nearly as consistent as this case. So to me, kind of my overarching thoughts on this, I think all of this kind of supports the idea that more so than a lot of cryptids and things we talk about on the show, this Altamaha-ha could truly be some sort of undiscovered or prehistoric creature, or, you know, like you said, some sort of just small pocket entity creature that has found some way to thrive in this little Amazon type environment. So I think this is like a really, really plausible thing. Like, we talk about some wild things on the show. This one seems like downright believable to me. But what are your kind of take home thoughts on this one?
Honestly, I'm kind of in the same spot when it comes to a lot of these like aquatic things. Maybe it's just a matter of the water's mysterious because we can't, you know, venture into it as easily as we can on land. But I don't know. I put a lot of stock and validity into this stuff. And just for the sake of devil's advocate, as far as the size go, there's at least one that made reference to seeing more than one of these things together, like it had like a baby with it. I don't know if maybe you came across more in the process of it, but that is in the mind that there will be different sizes if there is some sort of a breeding population of these things. So the fact that the width stays the same, but the length changes, I feel like puts validity in the fact that there might be more than one in this area, but you're clearly, again, describing the same thing. Question is, what is it exactly?
Exactly. All the reports are too similar across too long of a time for there not to be something there. Now, is it as spectacular as some sort of prehistoric Loch Ness creature? You know, maybe not. It could be more the alligator gar, Greenland shark type scenario. But either way, I mean, I think we can safely say these people are seeing something, and there's something at least out of the ordinary going on in this river.
You know, kind of a weird thing to think about, too. You said 1890 and then the 1980s. That's about a 100-year period. So I'm kind of curious if we might have more pocket sightings of this thing around like 2080, for example, because then maybe it'll bring some validity to the whole aspect of maybe they come to this area specifically for breeding.
Well, we'll have to ask the Skynet robots when they're running the world at that point.
Oh, my gosh. So Greenland sharks. The frequency of Greenland sharks reproducing is largely unknown, but the estimation is that they sexually mature and reproduce once in their life around the age of 150.
Wow.
I think we may have...
Is that your official guess on this one, the Greenland shark?
My official guess is a pocket of Greenland sharks that somehow found a way to exist in freshwater. That's... I keep pushing myself further into this corner that I think that there's a lot of validity to it being the Greenland shark or some subform or some variation of the Greenland shark, especially considering that they are seen in Canada. I mean, it's not that much farther to go down the coast, especially for aquatic things.
I mean, especially if they're known to migrate to warmer temperatures. So,
and they come up to the water near colder months. So again, you had the January sighting. When were the other sightings? Or did they seem like they were around like winter time?
A lot of them were like winter, spring. There was a couple summer ones, but again, if this thing, got trapped down here in the summer, it would still be here. So,
and again, primarily the majority of them are seen near winter. So, definitely. And again, they are known to come up to more shallow water during that time. So, possibly accidentally come in from the ocean into these freshwater areas definitely seems plausible to me.
Yeah, so that is not a theory I came across in any of my research into this. So I think it's pretty cool that you kind of stumbled upon that one as we were going along. But I think it's a really good theory. I think it's right up there with the alligator gar. That's like kind of my second most plausible theory at this point. So,
and just to throw this in, because it'll get even crazier, some of these have been seen to exceed living 500 years.
Wow.
So just extends that a little bit more with the whole coming into this area at certain times. Like, it doesn't seem that plausible for something that lives 500 years to try to reproduce every 100 years. So I'm curious. Like, we'll have to. Well, I don't even know if we'll be able to even remember this at this point. But 2080, I feel like there's a good possibility there might be another pocket of these things being seen, man.
You need to find like a Greenland shark expert to come on the show, and we'll just run this theory past them and see what they think.
I'll find one, man. I'll take the extra time to make sure I find one, man. I feel like it might be a weird pocket, but Greenland, they speak English, so we might be in luck.
But no, I think this was a fun one to research. It was kind of something out of the ordinary, not something that I've seen a whole lot of people talk about. Like I said, I saw it in a couple books. Big shout out to our buddy and friend of the show, Lyle Blackburn. One of his books I got a lot of the information for this episode out of. But fun one to do. And Shayn, gold star to you for coming up with your Greenland shark theory.
Dude, that was awesome. I totally stumbled on that on accident, but I feel like that's maybe we actually contributed something new to this one. That's always a perk. I like when we can do these shows and we don't feel like we're just spatting the same information. Even if it's just a little bit of something, dude, it's cool to be able to contribute something to whatever the mythos is of this particular creature.
Well, hey, it's few and far between whenever we get to do something productive on this show. So maybe this is one of those few times. And maybe that guy who left his really snotty YouTube comment will listen to this one and be like, hey, maybe those guys aren't such dumbasses.
Yeah, and go back to listen to our Beast of Bladenbarrow episode and see how we connect it with hyenas in the area and talking about everybody released a bunch of hyenas at the time, because I'm still pretty damn convinced that the Beast of Bladenbarrow was just a pack of hyenas.
What about a conglomeration of sea otters?
That's definitely possible. Or land otters? Conglomeration of land otters?
What the hell is even that?
I don't know, man.
All right, Shayn, if anybody wants to get up with us for any reason whatsoever, tell them how they can do that.
First and foremost, you guys can get a hold of us through email, which is bizarreencounters@outlook.com. You guys can also get up with us through social media. Instagram and Facebook are the two that we are the most active on. And you guys can also get a hold of us through the submission form, which is up at the top of our link tree. And the last way you guys can get a hold of us, and you guys can also call in and leave your encounters for the Halloween special, you guys can call the Bizarre Reality Media Hotline, and that number is 313-364-1551. And again, you guys can text or call that 24/7. And if you guys leave an encounter, we would definitely appreciate it, and I will contact you back to make sure it's okay that we use it. And if you want to remain anonymous, just throw it in there. I can change your guys' voices again.
As long as it's scary robot voices.
Only scary robot Alex Jones.
And you guys be sure to show some love to our friends and sponsors of the show. We got our buddies Rick and Hans with I Know Squatch for all your squatchy gear needs. We've got our buddy Dave, aka the Snarly Yow, with Snarly Yow Natural Products. And we've got our buddy Joe with Cryptoteology for all your wearable cryptids.
And you guys can also go and check out our awesome friends with affiliate links, Dimension Devices and Sticker Mule, with some additional discounts and credits available for you guys. And every single thing that we had mentioned is all available down in the show description off of